Working on a new article called The Formation of a Death Cult Society. Now, I'm definitely going to include a video that I just happened to come across this morning. And people really need to start looking at our society's rituals and our customs, our ceremonies, and even our habits as individual citizens, and start really reflecting on what drives our society and how we got to the place where we are today. Because it all has to do with these ancient cults that became obsessed with death. Now, the short video I came across this morning was not on a tinfoil hat site. It's called Ancient Origins, and it's just a website that dedicates itself to teaching people about archaeology and different discoveries around the world that, for one reason or another, that you're not going to hear about on the mainstream media. So when I was on there today, and I'm getting to the point where it's sort of like the seed, the genesis area of the Death Cult Society. And I've written over 3,000 articles so far. You can find maybe about 300 or 400 of them on my website, jchristoff.com. But this isn't the first time this area, Egypt, has come up on my radar. If you go to my website and just query in the article section Egypt, you're going to get tens or even 100 articles with Egypt mentioned. So today on Ancient Origins, something catches my attention as it goes down my feed, that they found a very big tomb, the biggest tomb so far in Saqqara. Now, Saqqara is sort of the land of the dead. So I'm like, okay, and see, this cult that we're dealing with today, which hides itself in medicine, hides itself in government. We don't have a government. We don't have a medical system. We don't have an educational system. We don't have a military. We don't have anything like that in the classic sense. What we have are institutions that are extensions of this death cult. So on the Ancient Origins, just today, you can find it. It'll be something about Saqqara. I think it's spelled S-A-Q-U-R-A. And they came across a tomb that's 3 times bigger than any tomb they've ever discovered anywhere in Egypt. And what they found is that death, and they say this outright, and no one's going to connect the dots, because you're not meant to connect the dots in our society. The history teacher is never meant to talk to the medical teacher. The medical teacher isn't meant to talk to the archaeology department. Because if you started talking to each other, or if there was multi-discipline study curriculums, you could paste this together really easy. So in this video, they were talking about death was a business, and that there was a big business in death, and that lots of people were involved, lots of different families. Some people did the carvings, some people did the gold work, the gold inlay, some did the mummification, some did the ceremony, some had to carve out the tomb. So what we think as Freemasons, they were tomb builders. They weren't the builders of these big, massive, amazing buildings, which eventually their knowledge was used to do that. But what we see in this short video on Ancient Origins is we see that death is a business. And what this group found out, hey, if we start killing people, if we increase the death, we make more money and gain more control of the society. If we collude as certain families in Egypt and start increasing the death. And even the folklore around the death, like someone had to write it, what's going to happen when you die. There's so many different facets of the death. Death is an industry. It's an industry today, and just like any industry, if you can increase the flow into that particular industry in which you are involved in, you're going to gain a lot more profit. Now, there are rumors and hints and aromas that this group became so dysfunctional. There's a story, and this kind of even hypothesis will get you in a lot of trouble today. And there's a good chance that where there's smoke, there's fire, but there's a big aroma that this group was actually told to leave Egypt because they became so obsessed with death. And psychologists will tell you, it's a psychology professor, she talked to the archaeology professor, that this group became so obsessed with death that that's all they thought about. And a psychology professor will tell you, hey, there's some odd effects in the human mind that whatever you focus on, you get more of in your life. They became so obsessed with death that death followed them everywhere. Everything was about death. Their kids became more clinically insane, more obsessed with death because their own kids were grown up in the death cult where they thought, oh, we'll get richer by increasing the death. And this group was told by facets of moral and loyal Egyptian government and sort of moral religious leaders saying, you guys gotta go. You're clinically insane. And by that time, this group was. And they were kicked out of Egypt. And some of the stories by this group who just kept hacking and cutting and murdering their way across the Middle East and then up to Greece and then up to Italy, Germany, and they landed in the UK. There's lots of revisionist history that they left by their own accord. And we see today this group still doing the same stuff, still in the systems, increasing the death and increasing their profit. If you want to get this article, which is going to be very informative with lots of video citations, email me at info@jchristoff.com. This is Jason Christoff signing off. Thank you for listening.